Hey guys, it's Jeff here, the photographer's mentor. I hope you're well. Hope you've had a fantastic week so far. So here we are in 2023, and I hope you had a really good start in January and kicked off your new year with a big boost. So what we're going to be talking about today, I'm joined by Michelle, the photographer's mindset coach, and she's going to talk to me and talk to you guys about developing more successful habits and becoming committed to developing habits that ultimately produce results, because that's what we want to do. We want to get 2023 off to a really good start. We don't want to let things drop. You know, a lot of people get excited at the very beginning of the year, and then within about 3 weeks in, they start to flag and they're not keeping up that consistency and not doing stuff that's going to make big changes. So I'm going to bring in Michelle, and then we're just going to roll with it and see where this podcast takes us. So if you're watching, let us know where you're from and also how you've got off to a good start this year. So if you've set any goals and you've ultimately done something towards your goals, then drop that in the comments. So hi, Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Very good, very good. Busy day today, but it's good to get back in and do some lives for the start of the year. So
definitely is.
So it's always, you know, a lot of people, like I just said there, you know, a lot of people they start 2023, they start a new year with loads of commitments, loads of ideas. And then obviously within about 2 or 3 weeks time, I think, was it something about the third week of the first month is the one with the drop off period where people ditch the diet, stop going to the gym, and then things start to go downhill from there.
Yeah, I think there's a few different studies. I think one of them was about the 19th of January is when like 80% of people have given up on their what they call New Year's resolutions. I don't like that word, if I'm honest. I'm not a massive fan of resolutions. I prefer intentions than resolutions, because I think resolutions are, I don't know, we've got it in our head that midnight on January everything's going to change and we're going to have these New Year's resolutions.
And I think it's one of the keys is not piling too much on ourselves at the beginning and starting with a few smaller goals, and then then adding to it as we get an effective habit created. And then once that habit's in place, adding something else to it, like today I was sharing with Michelle my calls for today. And I got 7 calls on today. Each call lasted about an hour. My first one was to Alex Kalpin from the US. So that was like 5:30 in the morning. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to be able to train today because I'm not going to get time to go to the gym. But then I decided, I was saying to Michelle, I've produced this little sheet, which was upside down. And every time between my calls, I've got to drop down on the floor and bang out some press-ups. So far, since 5 o'clock this morning, I'm up to 358 press-ups and 355 squats. So it's just doing these little things, instead of making an excuse that I can't get to the gym, and then ultimately tomorrow I mightn't get because I've got a busy day and I've got to go and pick my daughter up. At least I've done something. I've done something towards my goal of getting fitter and losing at least 2 or 3 of my chins.
Yeah, it's honestly just your schedule today makes me tired, as I have said. It completely does. Hi, everyone. There's some amazing people from all over the world, by the looks of it, with us today.
Quite a few people I know there from the US. Matthew, how you doing, Matthew? Hope to see you in PhotoBizX at the end of the month, because we've got something on there. And John Kalpin. John's an early morning man. John's probably up at 5 o'clock this morning doing his exercise and his morning meditation and his gratitude practices. George from Brooklyn in New York, Eric from West Sussex. So great to see you guys.
Yeah, brilliant. And Belgium and all sorts of things in here. So this is brilliant. So yeah, that completely lost me off track looking at where everybody was from. I was just amazed that we were having so many amazing people come on. Yeah, just your habits, your commitment to your exercise is amazing. With doing your push-ups, because you do other stuff as well, don't you? So you got the 100. Is it, how many push-ups do you have to do a day?
I try and do most days. I try and do at least 200 push-ups during the day, and then I'll do pull-ups when I go to the bathroom, because I've got a pull-up bar in my bedroom. So when I go to the upstairs, I always use the ensuite. So it's going a little bit further instead of going the one down, which is right next door to the office here. It's just those extra steps, it's all about these little things that make a big difference. And that ultimate goal that I have got to lose another stone and get a bit fitter will come by not the big thing, it's by those little things that you manage to keep that consistency up.
Yeah, definitely. Matthew, despite your efforts, the year is starting well. Does that mean your efforts weren't matching up to how well the year's going? And there's a few people, both Matthew and Eric, are saying about they need focus, I think they're saying.
I think, I always say to the clients who I work one-to-one with, and I know you do a lot of this as well, is focus on, a lot of people set the financial goals first, don't they? So they say, I want to do this many shoots, I want to make this much money. And I always think, try and set goals that ultimately will, in the long run, lead to money anyway. But also focus on other types of goals that work amongst each other. So I've just been leaving a voice clip to one of my mentoring clients, David, who's a wedding photographer, and he was asking about something he can do before our next call. And I says, why don't you start writing your blogs now? And the reason for that is blogs are a great thing to do, because with Google's latest algorithm change, it's looking for really helpful content. So blogs are really valuable for that. But think about a blog in itself. If you write a blog that is maybe a 2,000 word blog, that blog can then be broken down into social media posts. The blog can be created into a PDF, so you can send it off to some guy on Canva to make it into a really nice PDF that you can give out to people who visit your website in exchange for an email address. You can also now have your own LinkedIn newsletter from your LinkedIn company page, which is really, really powerful. And when people subscribe to your newsletter, they will get a notification every time you send a new newsletter out. And they will also get an email to tell you that that newsletter has gone out. So from that one blog, you can then create maybe 10 or 20 social media posts using some of that content from the blog. You can create a PDF, and you can create a LinkedIn newsletter, and then break that up to your LinkedIn personal posts and your LinkedIn company page posts. So just by creating one of those maybe once a fortnight, you might have your social media covered, and also keeping in front of mind and in contact with your LinkedIn followers. So it's about making things easier for yourself so that these success habits aren't a chore. They're quite easy to do. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. You need to make things as easy as possible as you can. And you also need to build them into a habit. For example, rather than, if we stick with the social media and blog section, rather than just be on social media all day and not actually set yourself a time, you can say to yourself, right, I'm going to schedule and plan all my social medias on, say, the first day of the month for that month. And obviously you're still going to dip in and put new stuff up. You might go for a walk one day and want to share that in the stories, or there's going to be extra things. But if you've got your basics lined up and you said, right, on the first of every month, this is what I'm doing, you create an efficient habit then of a day a month. And the same thing with checking your social media. If you say to yourself, and I don't personally, I prefer to get up, and I've got other habits that I do first thing in the morning, but you pick a time in the day that you always go in and check your social media, reply to comments, reply to anything that's gone on there. And you say to yourself, right, I'm going to build a habit that just before I eat lunch or just after I eat lunch, I go on social media and do all the replies. And by bringing a habit together with another habit, you are more likely to succeed in creating a habit. So whatever that habit is, you almost have to have a trigger. So you can't just say, well, at some point today, I'm going to do social media, or at some point today, I'm going to write a blog. You need to think, right, after lunch, or after my second coffee that I usually have at 1 o'clock, or anything like that. You have to actually find something that's going to trigger the new habit, where you think straight away, okay, I'm making this second cup of coffee. That means I need to go and reply to social media, or that means I need to go and do this. So for me, as Jeff knows, I started 5 a.m. starts at the beginning of January. So I had several habits in January. I had the gym. I had the 5 a.m. starts. There was another one. I've built them into habits that much that I can't even remember what they are. But so every day I've got up at 5 a.m. But I've also said to myself, right, my commitment, my non-negotiable commitment to create that habit is getting up at 5 a.m. I have 3 other things. I do 20 minutes exercise, 20 minutes journaling, and 20 minutes studying in my first hour. They're triggers from the 5 a.m. But my commitment, rather than overwhelming myself with the 4, is that I get up at 5 a.m. and I tick that off. Water. That's why I can remember that. I have succeeded in doing water. Water was my 3rd one. And it's having a trigger for the things you're going to do, because especially if you want to go to the gym or you want to go for a walk every day, if you just literally say, I'm just going to go for a walk whenever, there's no trigger, there's nothing to set it off. So your brain will just keep putting it off. And then all of a sudden it's 7 o'clock at night. It's too cold. You don't want to go. I know with the gym on a Sunday, I literally look at my planner, because I plan my week out on every Sunday evening. I have a paper planner because I love it. And I literally put my gym slots in after I've put all my appointments, my coaching sessions. I then pick 3 times I'm going to the gym. And my gym's really good because you actually have to book the gym, because they only allow a certain number of people in, which also means I've booked it on the app, which is another say, right, I'm going. And that's my commitment. Anything that goes in that planner is my commitment to the thing. I am going to be doing that no matter what.
I think that's really powerful, utilizing smartphones and apps and stuff like that to set reminders, to put in, to actually schedule time in your diary as if you were going to do like an appointment call. And Darko's just, how are you doing, Darko? And he's just mentioned there that, he's a bit of a scatterbrain focus. And I think all of us have that problem nowadays with the distractions of social media and with smartphones. And I was in a meeting with one of my mentoring clients a couple of weeks ago, and we were just in this pub having a bite to eat, and I realized how much this person's phone was going off literally every couple of seconds. It was beep, 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 different noises, LinkedIn, Facebook notifications. Now my phone is set to silent. It never makes a noise. My phone makes a noise once a day, and that's at 4:44 when my alarm goes off, and then 5 o'clock if I don't get up at 4:44. It's programmed that if, like, my mother rings, if she rings twice, then it will actually come through to my little Fitbit. But I don't have any notifications, so I don't break that focus. So I get up in the morning, I'll check once I've done my writing for the day, and I'm currently writing my 4th book. Once I've done that, even if it's just 20 minutes or an hour, then I'll allow myself to go in, clear my social media notifications, and check my emails. But as soon as that's done, the emails get shut down, and the emails don't get checked again until I'm having a coffee after lunch, and I can just sit, because I come out the office into the living room or into the kitchen, sit, relax away from the office, and then I'll allow myself to just go through my emails while I'm having a coffee. And incidentally, I don't have email on my phone, so that was another thing that I did a couple of years ago. I removed it because I changed handsets. I had problems, and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to have it, because it's just another distraction. It's another thing that's dragging at your time and your attention. And I was thinking, why do I need email if I'm not in my office? If I'm out walking or I'm doing something, just get rid of it. I can deal with it when I get back home.
And I'm just the same as you. I've got no notifications. I'm exactly the same. I don't keep any of those on, and my email isn't on my phone either, unless I'm going away, so I can log in to make sure that, I can see them if I'm away or something. But yeah, other than that, I don't have them on there. But with the scatter part, with the focus is scattered on too many things, I've often advised my coaching clients this, is that you get a book, a specific notebook for your ideas. For any ideas that come up. I mean, obviously you can use an app or something, but I tend to find a notebook works really well, because you can take it to the bedroom. And if you can't sleep and some ideas start happening, you're not looking at your screen, you're actually writing down on paper rather than starting with the blue screens and keeping yourself awake longer and things like that, which is why I suggest that it's a notebook. And every time you have an idea or your focus distracts from what you're currently focusing on, I would then write it in the book so that you know you've got it. It's not going to be forgotten, but then you can pull back your focus to what you're doing at the present time and the one thing you're focusing on the present time. One of the reasons we can't pull our focus back is if we haven't made a note of it somewhere. So our brain is trying to actually remember it and keep the idea. And because we haven't put it in something that we know is going to be there, our brain will keep going, yeah, but we're thinking about this idea while you're doing this focus. And don't forget this idea. And we need to keep thinking of this. And it's basically because you haven't taken it from here into something.
Mhm.
And that is meant to actually help you to refocus back on the specific task you're doing so that you don't jump from one thing to another because you've written it down for the next one. If you also, at the beginning of each day, beginning of each week, look at that idea list that you've created, look through that book and pick the thing you're going to work on that week, that month, that next 12 weeks, whatever it is. And you know all those other ideas are still there. They're not going to go anywhere. But you need to focus on that thing first and see it through. And you can prioritize that way and say, which one is most important to my business? Which idea is going to move my business forward? Which idea is going to make me the most money? Whatever your focus is on from a business perspective, you then choose the one that is most aligned to your dream life and your dream goals. I know a few of you said you don't really know, you're lacking direction and focus and things like that at the moment. And with that kind of stuff, don't look, what you want from your life is the only thing I can advise you to think of. And I mean really want from your life. So in part of my mindset membership site, there's a worksheet and workbooks on your dream life, your successful self, and also your 1 year story. And if you sit and look, and it can change, this isn't, when you write this down, it's not stuck. You're not stuck in a dream life, and you start on one path and you think, oh, I didn't like this as much as I thought I was going to. You can change, but look at it and think to yourself, right, what do I want? How do I want to be? What do I want from my life? I know, what houses I want. I know how much I want to work. I know all those things. And that can help you work backwards, because you can go from that time and you can say, right, to get that, what do I have to do? So to get my dream life, which is, I want to continue to photograph cars and bikes. I want to continue to do this, that, and the other. Now, what do I have to do to make that happen? How does that happen? And then when you work backwards, you can create your list of things you want and need to do in order to create that dream life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read the dream life story that you write every morning, you will make choices for the rest of your day based on that life, because you've reminded yourself in the morning, this is what I am aiming for. This is what I'm focusing on. So that as soon as you wake up, you're reminded of that. And then your focus and your choices are based on that story. And if you find that the future is too much, you can do just 1 year. What do I want to see in 1 year? And again, at least as long as you've got that at the forefront of your conscious brain, because you've read it in the morning, you've read it before you go to sleep, you will always choose the to-do list, the items, the focuses you need to make that happen, because it's at the forefront of your brain. If you don't remind yourself what you're aiming for every day, you will just willy-nilly pick things.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things you've got to think, and Darko said about this, what direction does he go? Does he do the podcast? Does he do the blogs? Does he do the interviews? Now, Darko, I'm started on my fourth book, which is called The Photographer's Passive Income Plan. And I decided to write this because I believe that every photographer needs to look at creating a passive income and bringing something in like that you're mentioning about courses, but also what is the one thing that you can do that will give you the most authority and positioning and standing? So you want to think outside the box, think differently than other people. Now, 5 years ago, I wrote my first ever book, and it's actually quite embarrassing. It's in the book shelf behind me there. It's only 49 pages. 49 pages. And it's full of spelling mistakes. So it was my first ever LinkedIn book. The second one was 100. Third one was like 150. It's onto the fourth edition now, and it's like nearly 200 pages. But that one first book then positioned me as an author. And then I got a few opportunities to go on podcasts. And the first one I ever did was PhotoBizX with Andrew Helmish, and that podcast led to an increase in my number of followers. Then people coming to me wanting to join my course. So you look at, I think for me, the biggest life-changing thing that I've done was to write my book. And then subsequently now, I'm on to writing my fourth book, and my first book is now into its fourth edition. The books themselves don't bring me a stack of money. My book sales will probably amount to about 3 really nice holidays a year, but I'm not making millions from books. However, the opportunity that has arisen and the income into my business because of what the book has done and allowed me to position myself as has run into hundreds of thousands. So the book sales haven't gone into hundreds of thousands. They're probably going to maybe 10,000, something like that a year, but still nice for, holidays and stuff. But the opportunity when you become an author, it makes a difference. So if you're going to think, right, I'm going to have my own podcast, Michelle, you've got your own podcast, that positions you as an authority. Then you start interviewing people. You get people who are thought leaders and influencers on your podcast, and then you're getting their authority. Or you start a series of courses, and you look at then selling that course through other people. So I'm just starting to do another course, which is going to be sold at the end of the month, but I'm not bothered about selling that course. I'm just creating the content. I'm using a third party to sell the course through. So that's one thing I think, Darko, that you really need to think of. What is going to make the biggest change? Then put the focus on there. And how will that position you as an authority, grow your following? And the byproduct of all that will be more money and ultimately more opportunity, because people will see you and say, I need this guy to speak for us. I need this guy to write for our magazine. I want this guy as a podcast guest on my podcast.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's just what you think is going to work best. And picking one thing to focus on first, they say a habit is 66 days.
Yeah.
So it's not 21 days, it's about 66 days. It's meant to be 22 days of hard, 22 days of a messy, and 22 days of it's actually starting to work.
Yeah.
I had to remember that in my head then. So pick one. So if you want to do the podcast and do that every week. And then in 2 months' time, then add the blogging, because you'll already be, the podcast will already be a habit. It'll already be something that you have got in your schedule and you do regularly and you have it sorted. So then you do the blog, and then, 2 months after, a month after. I mean, the interviews, I think you could say to yourself, I'm going to do 1 or 2 a month, and then build it from there. Like, I don't think that needs to be brought in. But if you're struggling because you're like, I want to do a podcast, I want to do a blog, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, then you either need to say schedule days for the month to focus on each individual one, because you could record, in theory, a month's worth of podcasts in one day, and then you could schedule them, and that's 1 day of a month. You've still got another 30 days or 28 days or whatever, however, which are depending on which month you're in. So there's 2 ways of doing it. One of them is create a habit for that thing you're working on, and then once it's a habit, bring another one in. Or you schedule a certain day and you say, right, this day I'm going to smash out everything for the next month, and then I don't need to do it again until the month after.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that makes sense.
And some of the things, you could look at, one of the other big things to look at is, joint ventures, collaborations, working with people who already serve your ideal clients. So for me, one of my big ones for for 2023 is to get on 30 podcasts in 2023. So I've drafted an email up, pitching what I'd like to talk about on a podcast, and I send them out. Every week I'll sit down and Google photography podcasts, and then I'll start sending out emails to photography podcasts, pitching my idea for their podcast, but talking about how much value I'm going to bring their listeners. It's not about me. It's all about what I'm going to give to them. So far I've sent out about 30 requests for podcasts, and I've got 8 confirmed bookings for podcasts already. So, I'm just under a third of the way to my goal. So I don't do this all in one day. I'll send out 5 requests a day, and then a couple of days time, I'll do another 5 requests. Now I know that when I go on a podcast, again, my followers will increase, my book sales will increase, and I'll probably get a couple of inquiries either for mentoring or people wanting websites from my website business. So it's that one little thing, sending out that email, that leads to opportunity. And sometimes when I get heard on a podcast, then I get asked to appear on another one or get asked to write for a magazine. So if you may be a wedding photographer, why not think, right, you know what, I'm going to take one day off every 2 weeks and go around bridal shops and try and create a joint venture with a bridal shop where I'm giving them vouchers and they're going to hand these vouchers out to every bride that comes in. It has to be a shop that's positioned as premium as you are or above, so that you don't get price conflict when they're, if it's a low end shop, you don't want to be handing out vouchers for high end photography because you're not going to connect with those clients. But if you do that and it's a commission based one, so that the girls in the shop get a kickback every time somebody books, that can bring hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of, or dollars worth of opportunity to you. Think about people who already serve your customers and how you can create a collaboration or a joint venture with them so that you can leverage their existing clients who need your service.
I have a question for you, Darko. You've just said time is short for blog and interviews, and I tend to pause on these. So I want to ask you if time really is short. Like, is it truly short? Or is there something stopping you? Is there anything sabotaging you, any beliefs you have? So the reason I'm asking is I pause on blogs and I will say I haven't had time, when actually it's because from childhood I've been told I can't write very well. And I've been told, I'm dyslexic. I didn't get dyslexia diagnosed until the end of when I was 17, something like that, 16, 17. So it was really late on. So I spent my whole school time getting told off that I wasn't doing English correctly. I couldn't do English. I'm spelling things wrong. Even now, my friends do it to me. And so every time I have to write something like a blog, or I have to do an article for a magazine, or I actually, it takes me about 5 weeks when it could take me about an hour, because I have a belief that I cannot and am not any good at writing. And it's a belief I'm currently retraining my brain on, because actually, even with dyslexia, I'm pretty sure my writing isn't that bad. Nobody tell me that it is, because I'm changing my belief. Okay. But this is why I'm asking, because time is time. Like, yes, we have a short amount of time, but what are you doing with your time? And is there a reason? Like, if you said to yourself, okay, I'm going to do 1 interview a month, do you really not have time to do 1 interview a month? This is why I'm asking. If you really truly committed and say, this is important to me, do you have the time? Because I would have said in December, or I started the gym in December, so probably November, I don't have time to go to the gym. When do I have time to go to the gym? Yet now I'm going to the gym 3 times a week because I'm scheduling, I'm making it happen, because I'm committed. And, and now this month I've just added that I'm going to be doing a minimum of 10,000 steps a day. I started 8,000 the first week, and now it's 10,000. And I can tell you that every day I've done 10,000 steps. And I would have told you, I do not have the time to go out and do 10,000 steps. So is it, or are you just not placing an importance, or do you have something holding you back because of it from a mindset perspective?
Because and a potential
usually that's why.
Is like I've got a Word document open on my computer. It's always open. And at the beginning of it, and that's my book. So if I do have a bit spare time, I can go in and just get down 100 words or 200 words. It all adds up, and it's like that. The example of today: 7 calls and a live that's probably going to last an hour. There's no way I could have got to the gym, but by the end of the day, I probably will have cracked out close to 600, 700 press-ups, and probably the same in squats, which is sometimes more than other people might do in an entire month. But they're all done in little periods, and I think with that, last night I went up to bed and I thought I'm going to have an early bed and I'm going to read a little bit on marketing. I've got a book on how to market a book. I picked up my mobile phone just to check one thing before I went to bed and set my alarm. And I clicked onto Facebook, had a look, and as I was scrolling through, I saw a Facebook ad for Royal Enfield motorcycles. That was at about 7 o'clock. At 8:45, I was still looking at different. I was on Triumph. I'd been on Royal, and I was just like, "Oh my god, I've wasted an hour and a half from that one little distraction. What could I have done? And I still haven't bought a bike, but I could have read a load of stuff about how to market my book better. But it's that distraction. So I did have the time. I just ended up. It's so easy to use time on bad things, isn't it? Use time sitting, watching TV, scrolling through mobile phone, eating cake.
Because you get the dopamine from those really quick things, whereas you don't get dopamine from the long-term goals, the long-term results. You're not getting those quick hits like going to the gym. I'm not going to see results for several weeks, but so I'm not feeling the dopamine, the quick hit, the pleasure stuff straight away, because it's not a quick fix. I will, and I do feel great after being at the gym, but we've lost in society, a lot of us have lost the ability to look at that long-term results because we've got used to Facebook, Instagram. Amazon delivers tomorrow. If you order something on Amazon today, you'll more than likely have it tomorrow. We've lost the ability to wait for something. We've lost the ability to sort of say to ourselves, right, well, I can have this, but it's going to take 3 weeks or 4 weeks, or I'm going to lose weight, but if I want to do it healthily, it's going to take me 6 months. And whereas the cake will give you the dopamine, the good feelings, the things straight away, and you just give up on yourself because you're not keeping track and focused on the commitment to your long-term goal, because that's not going to happen quickly. Like ordering a book from Amazon happens quickly, or like clicking on things, you just get lost.
And it's funny, we're talking because George is saying that he had the same problem as you, and I've got the same problem as you. I'm still dyslexic. I really struggled. I mean, the education system didn't fit for me at all when I was young, and even though my dad was a lecturer, my mum was a teacher, I came out of school with 0 qualifications, and because I couldn't fit in and struggled, I became a bit of a naughty child and naughty teenager, which got me in a lot of trouble, and I ended up getting expelled from school. And if it hadn't been for the military, I probably would have ended up in prison, the route I was going down. So I never really got to grips with the writing. But then, years later, when I started up the business, because I've always loved to read, I thought, you know what? I'm not having somebody tell me I can't do this, I can't do that. I'm going to start writing. And my writing was appalling, but I've grown. And things with like spell checkers and Grammarly, and one of my favorite tools is Read Aloud. Creating stuff in Word, check it with Grammarly, then get Word to read it back to you and read aloud. You see all your mistakes straight away, and then I send them to a copywriter, Claire Bignell, who tweaks it and just makes it a little bit better for me, so that I don't look an idiot when people read my books. But that book writing period, this time when I make it a habit where I get up in the morning and I write first thing while I'm having a coffee and I've got a candle burning in the living room. Hi, Claire. We've just been talking about you. And, that becomes a habit. But I tell you what, as you get closer and closer towards the completion of the book, it's like you're carrying a big weight, because it's weird that the longer you've been doing it and the closer you're getting towards completion, the more excited you are to get it finished. But the harder it seems to finish. That like the last chapter of the book seems to take like ages, but when you've done it, oh my God, the dopamine and the the enjoyment of just pressing send, and I send it over to Claire and she proofreads it and corrects all my spellings. It's like, oh my God, I've done it. I've actually done something. And there's not many things I can say that I'm proud of, because we all are very self-critical, but to be able to say, oh, I've written another book, and to have 3 best-selling books out when I came away with nothing from state education, it's an achievement, So I think we're all capable of doing amazing things and changing our self-beliefs about ourselves. We just sometimes need to get that kick and believe we can actually do it, And Georgia, I hope you make a huge success of the magazine, and you'll have to keep me up to date and let me know. Send me some information about it. It'd be really interesting to hear about your journey creating a magazine.
Yeah. No, and you can turn those beliefs around. There was a time when, even from a scientific perspective, they would have told you your brain is stuck. You can't change your beliefs. You are who you are. But they've now scientifically proven that your brain can change consistently. But you have to start saying different thoughts to yourself, because your thoughts create your beliefs, which create your reality. And what you say to yourself every day is what your subconscious brain takes on and then creates in your reality on a day-to-day basis. So if you're saying, I'm not confident all the time, or I'm never going to get fit, or I am never going to be a good enough photographer, or I'm never going to earn £1,000 a shoot, whatever that is, if you're saying to that yourself consciously all the time, your subconscious takes it on a belief, and it will self-sabotage you every time you go to do something. So say you have a client in a viewing and you get up to like 999 on the shoot, and you have this belief that you can never make over £1,000, you're going to start discounting without them even saying anything.
Yeah.
Because you're going to believe that they will never spend that with you, and your subconscious, you won't even notice you're doing it. You will just start doing it because in your head you have created this very strict belief in yourself that you cannot earn over £1,000 a shoot, and no one will ever pay you that. So you'll make sure it's less. So, or you'll start getting like really panicky because you need to tell them how much they've spent. So it's really, it all sort of comes together. And from a successful habit point of view, you need to believe you can put these habits into place by having the thoughts that you can do it. And a successful habit, an effective, successful habit, is to watch your thinking and change your thinking so that you change your beliefs. And there'll be a period when you do start changing your habits. About 3 weeks in, you will start having arguments with yourself. Many people start feeling low, unable to do things, unable to move forward, because you're killing off the version of yourself you were before you brought the habit in. So your ego will come and fight you, and you have to work through that. So the reason I'm saying this is because I've gone through this in January, and I'm going to know it's coming up for me for the walking as well. And if you allow it, and that one day that your ego starts telling you can't do this anymore, stop trying to do this, if you allow that in that day to stop you for the rest of the year or the rest of that week, you say, just, I can't do it, understand that voice will go as you push through the barrier. That feeling will go as you push through the barrier. I actually am very honest on my social media platforms. Do come and follow me. I did a story the other Sunday, and actually my PT instructor actually said to me, well done for posting that. And I arrived at my gym and I posted a story. It goes on Instagram and Facebook, I think. And I literally videoed myself outside the gym going, it's 9 a.m, it's Sunday, and I do not want to be here. I had a fight with my brain the whole way here. I did not want to get out of bed. I literally fought with myself the whole way there. And I said, but I'm here. There's the gym. I was like, showing people there's the gym. I'm going in. But your brain will fight for you when you try and change yourself, because it thinks you are going to die from change. And that's something that comes back from when we were cavemen, and if we took a different path that was change, we'd more than likely die because a tiger could come out, because we've never been down that path and we don't know it. So it actually comes back from a very long time ago. So our when we change ourselves, our mind panics and goes, oh my God, you are going to die. And in theory, your old self is dying. So it isn't wrong, but it will fight you. And that's where you have to be committed to the new habit, committed to the long-term goal, and say, no, I am going to do this. And if you do have it, you allow yourself to have it for a day. And then you say, okay, today I'm going to feel like crap. Today, I'm just going to allow myself to have a bad day. I'm not going to the gym, and I'm just going to eat thousands of donuts. As long as you get up the next day and you go, okay, new day, doing it again. Let's go. And you go, you will win. But unfortunately, most of us, we break a habit for a day and we say, well, there's no point in continuing. But there is. Start it again that afternoon. Start it again that evening. Start it again the next day. Don't.
And it's because I think, again, a lot of these habits, what we got to remember, these habits aren't there just because they're habits. They're part of these habits of going to shape the life that we actually keep visualizing, right? So yes, it might be an hour out your day to go to the gym, or yes, it might be 20 minutes writing or something, but that is going to shape the life that you want to visualize. And 5 years ago, I wrote down a few things, and I look back and I've got pretty much all of the stuff ticked off, you know? So I was like, when I wrote that first book, which took me ages to do, then after that book was created, I thought, you know what, I'm going to write 5. I want to have 5 best-selling books out there. So every time I write a book, what I do, one of the first things I do, as soon as I got the book's name and the idea for the book, I send that to a designer who creates the cover and a 3D mock-up of the book. And then she sends it back to me, and I have that on my desktop on my computer. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to get it out. You know, so George could have the cover of his magazine. So once you've, you know, so I got over the first book, and then I started thinking, well, I've done this. I reckon I could write 5 books. So I had that bigger visualization. So the next thing was, you know, I wanted to do speaking events. I wanted to do podcasts. So I started doing podcasts, and then start thinking, right, I'd like to get on some of the top podcasts in the world. You know, if I can go on these, I can do, you know, because the people who run the top podcasts in the world are still humans, the same as anybody else. I'd like to get sponsored by a camera brand, you know, so that's starting to come off. I'd like to do speaking events internationally. So I first started imagining myself speaking in London and Glasgow and places like that. And now I've took that visualization further to imagine myself going to New York and places like that and speaking. So once you've done that little step, then you can rewind your brain a bit and think, well, I've achieved this. I can do this. You know, if you can do 1 press up and you master that, then you think, I can do 10. And then when you do 10, you think, I can do 100. If I've got this far, you know, and it really is the only limit is how you visualize it and think of it. Because if you believe you can do it and you can see yourself doing it, you will do it. It will happen. But if you can't convince yourself, then just do it little chunks at a time, and then start adding to it and going, yeah, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do, you know, I'm going to write, I've written 1 book, I'm going to write 5. But I think sometimes you have to convince yourself that you can do the little bit first. And then when you've nailed that, then you're like, well, I'm going to go a bit bigger, be ambitious.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, visualization is that big thing, isn't it? And actually seeing it, you know, so George can imagine himself at like launch parties for the magazine, rubbing shoulders with people from Vogue and Time magazine and stuff, drinking champagne. Why not? You know, that, you know, everybody who has everything in life was at one point just, you know, all the big successful people were once very unsuccessful and just starting out with an idea. And it's the ones who committed and saw it through and kept doing the things over and over again that got to it. There's been so many great ideas that have never come up because people have given up.
Who was the actor that wrote a check? There was an actor that wrote a check to himself.
Jim Carrey, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was Jim Carrey. He wrote a check to himself and visualized himself earning a certain amount of money from a movie years when he had absolutely nothing, and then he led himself towards that because he could see himself being handed that check that he had on his board. So just those type of things, that visualization side of it is super, super powerful. I'm actually reading a book at the moment called something about expectations. I can't remember the full title, and it's, there's so much science in it about how your outcomes are what you expect them to be, and there's literally so many studies in there, and it just fascinates me how the brain works from a visualization perspective and seeing yourself doing these things. And if you ever have friends who are up for this kind of thing, it doesn't matter if they're photographers or not. I know somebody who actually threw an in the future party. I've always wanted to throw one, so please invite me. And everybody came as themselves in 10 years.
Oh, cool.
And they were only allowed to talk as if everything they wanted had happened in the next 10 years. And they came as that person. Some of them even did business cards as that person. So for the whole evening, they lived a real life visualization of who they are going to be. And there were literally people walking around going, yes, I've had that contract with Vogue, I've done this, and they had this meet up and they just pretended. And when you do things like that, even if you've got one friend, you can just chat as if, because I've got a friend that we do this, we send each other a message and go, right, we're in the future. And we literally message each other all day as if we're in the future, we're our future self.
Yeah.
What happens is, as you're talking to these people, you say, oh yeah, and I did this. And you're like, I never thought about doing that. Let me write that down. And it's giving you, like, all of a sudden you're saying, oh yeah, and I was on a TED Talk. And you're like, oh, I need to get on a TED Talk. And you start coming up with these ideas to make it happen as they're asking you questions, because they will ask you questions. Well, how did you do that? Oh, so you did a TED Talk. So what was it on? And they'll start giving you more details to this story, to the visualization. And it's meant to solidify it and make you believe it even more. And I think it's fascinating. And we do it. We message back and forth, and she'll ask me a question. So I'll be like, oh, I've got, I don't know, however many members in my membership. And then she'll start saying, oh, how did you do that? Did you still do that marketing thing you were doing? And she'd ask me questions about how the marketing went, what I did, why it happened. And then you start coming up with all these brilliant ideas for your business and for your life. Because it's not obviously just business, the habits you need to create.
Yeah.
You need to create your successful self. So your version of what your successful self is, you need those habits in life and business to create that person that you believe is your successful self. It's little things like, do you guys keep up on top of your accounts? This is sounds like a really silly question, but if you were earning the amount of money you wanted to earn and being the successful person you want to be, would you be behind on your accounts? Would you be behind on this? Or as a successful person, would you be on top of it? And then you need to become that person. You need to create those habits to be your most successful self.
And you just touched on your membership group there, didn't you? And obviously, I think your, success habits is one of the things that you talk about, and positivity, mindation. You've got a 5-day challenge coming up. Is that right?
Yeah, I've got a 5-day free mindset challenge coming up. It's on the 20th of March, so it's just over a month away. And there's 5 days of lives. There's going to be some guests. There's going to be workshops. There's going to be competitions, workshops, worksheets. There's going to be like competitions for who declutters the best, all sorts of fun things that basically just gets you started on your mindset journey and helps you move forward with things a little bit better. So yeah, you've got the web page up there, which is awesome.
So you just go to, what's this? It's the photographersmindset.com, which is photographersmindset.com, which is your website.
Yeah.
And then we've got hyphen 5-day photographers mindset workshop.
Yeah, or just go to photographersmindset.com, and if you click the work with me drop down, you'll find the 5-day.
Right.
So it's right there. That's probably the easier way than trying to go with the long one.
And then if you stick that after this webinar, if you stick that in the comments, so if anybody wants to sign up for that, and definitely worth signing up for, because Michelle really does know our stuff when it comes to mindset. And if you want to achieve the things that you want to achieve, but you need that boost, and you need to be surrounded by people who are also very success orientated and success motivated, then that's probably the best place to be. Yeah, and what was the date of that again?
Such an amazing. Starts on the 20th of March. When you sign up, though, you get a link to the free section of the community where it's all going to be running. So you do get things kickstarting you now. It just be that the actual lives and the week will be the 20th of March.
Brilliant. So, yeah. And we've got another webinar this time next week, haven't we? 2:00 next
We Thursday. Do, and you're going to ask me what it is, aren't you? So let me just...
Yeah, because I don't have it at hand. But this time 2:00 is a good time, because obviously we hit the UK and we also hit the US and around Europe as well at the same time.
Where it's just here somewhere. It's not far up. We didn't go very far, I'm sure. There it is. Oh.
Thank you, Claire Bignell. And Claire and me are going to be doing some webinars later on, either at the end of this month or beginning of next month, on creative copyright. And there, Claire, I've put it out there. So
we're committed now. So next week we are doing Stop Letting the Small Negatives Ruin Your Successful Mindset. And this is really important. This kind of really follows on from today and what I was saying about your thoughts, because we're going to delve into the smaller negatives that you don't notice you're doing every day, that you don't notice you're saying and you don't realize. And they're the really small ones that can slip through. So we're going to build your awareness on what to look out for and how to notice them, to make sure that you're changing your reality and changing your beliefs, because you'd be surprised how they sneak up without even meaning to. So yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I had that. I worked with a personal trainer, a fitness mindset coach, and he helped me reprogram my mindset about some of the things that I believed about fitness or believed about myself, with regards to eating habits and stuff like that, and quite easily managed to change some of these eating habits that I've had pre-programmed for the past 30 years. Ever since I was a little kid, and I used to steal biscuits out of the kitchen and eat entire packs of biscuits. So it is, like you say, it's all these little negatives, these little pre-programmed habits. It's about changing these and stopping yourself sabotaging your success.
Yeah, because you guys have got to stop doing that, because you're all awesome and you can all achieve anything you want to achieve, and you really truly can. Look around you. If you ever look at someone else and think, oh, look what they're doing, I can never do that. If someone else is doing it, you can do it too, because it shows it's possible.
Certainly is. Well, thanks very much, Michelle. I'm going to go off and do some more press ups, and looking forward to doing this again in next Thursday, 2:00 next Thursday, where we're going to be talking about overcoming those small negatives that could sabotage your success. And if you're not connected with Michelle, drop Michelle a connection now, and watch out for our event that we'll be creating. I'll probably create that over the weekend, and we'll see you live again on LinkedIn next Thursday at 2:00.
Perfect. See you all then, guys.
Thanks again, guys. Take care.